couldn't have a better guest musician than that. So I realized I forgot to say something, and so I'm going to make up for it. Even though Hazel gave me this nice script, you'd think I was illiterate. So I want to thank Sabrina for our meditation and talk, because some of you are new, just for a moment about what practitioners do. Practitioners here are trained to teach and to pray with you. And so my favorite of those, of course, is praying with you. But I would welcome you to join one of the practitioners who are known by their purple prayer shawls, that if you would like more of something in your life, if you would like something to change in your life, there are a couple ways you can do that. You can meet with them after service for what we call the 3-minute miracle, which is not where you get to tell the long and dreadful story of how horrible it is. We've all been down that road, thank you very much. We pass on that one. But tell us what you want, because this is affirmative prayer. This is recognizing that what you want is already known in the mind of God. So you can do that in 3-minute miracle, or you can make an appointment with any one of the practitioners, and they're in your program, so they're easy to reach. And that takes about an hour, and it's a chance for you to go a little deeper. But I think it's important that we take this moment to bless our practitioners. So thank you. And now I have the honor of introducing our guest speaker. So as you know, it's Rabbi Julie Koslow, who was ordained as a rabbi and leader among her people in 2007 from the Academy of Jewish Religion in Los Angeles. Rabbi Koslow holds a bachelor's degree from the American Jewish University, where she graduated magna cum laude. She holds a master's degree in rabbinic literature from the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies, and a second master's degree in rabbinics from the Academy for Jewish Religion. Rabbi Koslow is both a visionary as well as a traditionalist. Her ability to maneuver spiritually between Jewish ways of the past and the prophetic call of the future makes her rabbinate both vibrant and relevant, as well as unique in her field. She has 3 children, 4 grandchildren who are the center of love in her life. She extends that love to her community family and dedicates herself to building meaningful, deep, and loving connections with whom all she engages. Her new community is nationally acclaimed for its innovation and direct resistance to the normative ways of structuring religious institutions. She is driven by a commitment to recover the beauty and wisdom of her people's spiritual path and to forging a purpose-driven life for her congregants. Please give a warm CSL welcome to Rabbi Julie.
Thank you. I'm just going to move this. Thank you, Sally. I'm going to move this over here, if I may. Can I just move these things over? Okay, let me just move them right here very carefully. Wow, let me just look around this room a minute. What an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Good morning. My name is Julie Koslow, and I am the rabbi and spiritual leader of the community. It's a newly created synagogue without walls here in Prescott, Arizona. I wanted to talk today about how lucky we are to live in these times when the two ideas of religion and spirituality, which have been at odds with each other since the beginning of time, they have finally run headstrong into each other, forcing us to make sense of the soul's need and hunger for a higher truth, and forcing our hand to choose where and how it is that we can express the depth of our human experience and need for spiritual nourishment in this world of ours. There are 2 kinds of clergy, one career-driven and one driven by a calling. I'm the latter. I was a different kind of child. I can't say that I understood why, but life never made sense to me. It all seemed so fabricated and inauthentic. I was in search of answers from the day I arrived for questions that no one was asking but me. There was one thing that did make sense to me, though, which I took a lot of ridicule for, but I knew somehow from the get-go that there was a spark of the divine in my being and in my soul. I can't say that I knew what that meant. I can't say that I had any place to discover its meaning. I did not. But this truth has indeed been the strongest determinant that has directed, called, coerced, enticed the very direction of my life. And though this truth has led me down a very lonely road, it has also ensured ultimately that I would live a bright and meaningful life, not an easy life, but one gloriously steeped in meaning. The day my first child, Chelsea, was born, that sense that I had had my whole life of being lost and misplaced was gone. Poof. I felt that day for the first time in my life that I had come face to face with the mystery of God. It happened in the mystery of giving birth. I, too, was born. I felt like my soul was being set free from some restrictive confinement, not unlike a prison. And that soul, she has been directing the sails ever since. I intuitively knew from that experience that absolutely nothing in life was going to be random. And that God, the Creator, who ruled the matrix called our world, was either an entity to be feared or simply denied. Well, that day, everything changed. I saw with my soul's eyes that God was able to take up residency with my heart. I knew a truth that day. That day, the sacred privilege of giving birth brought me into the soul of God, and I have never left. What was certain from then on was that God was not a puppeteer, not a man in a white robe making untenable demands of humanity, but rather an entity of the highest order, the source of all love. There's a Jewish folktale that tells a story of Adam, and he is demanding that God tell him what this thing called life is. God, what is going on here? Well, God resists, saying, Adam, that's for me to know and you to find out. That's the way I've planned this whole thing. Yet Adam keeps complaining, whining, really. Tell me, tell me. Listen, I get it. I did the same thing. I still do. But he wouldn't give up, and finally God had it, and God said, okay, Adam, okay. I'm going to give you one split-second look from one end of creation to the other. But after you get this look, Adam, you got to stop with the question, stop with the whining. My creation will be as I have made it. And that day, Adam's eyes and heart and soul were utterly enlightened by a flash. I feel as though I too was given that split-second look from one end of creation to the other as well, the day that Chelsea was born. If I had to explain to you what I saw, I'd analogize it with a huge cosmic table covered with zillion pieces of puzzles. And I instinctively understood from that day on that life was the process of finding the piece of the puzzle that has your name on it, and then to spend your lifetime trying to find where in creation it fits into the fabric of being. In other words, if you are here, you've been invited, and not for nothing. I found that puzzle piece with my name on it, I did. But scratched on it as well was the word rabbi. Clear as day, strong as a hurricane, I was called to become a rabbi with my life. And from that day, that very day forward, and Chelsea's about to be 38, I threw myself into my destiny, and I never looked back. Well, that's not altogether true. 20 years later, I would look back, and I would question. But that's the tale I'm here to tell you today. Here's the catch. It was 20 years later that I was ordained as a rabbi from that moment. And honestly, I don't know how I made it. There was divorce, raising 3 adolescent children in Los Angeles, California by myself. I was a full-time graduate student. I was working 4 jobs. There were no support systems, not enough money. Absolutely nothing went right, and absolutely everything went wrong. But you know what? I made it. It took a decade of learning, and I made it. And at the age of 50, 16 years ago, I thought the hardest part of my journey was behind me, because I brought the impossible to fruition. When I told people I was going to be a rabbi, you think they said, "Good girl, you go." That's not what they said. It was a miracle. I was an ordained rabbi, a leader of the Jewish people, and I made it. But I was wrong when I thought the hardest part was over. Truly, a whole other story began at that time. I was going to be challenged to both survive the rabbinate and then to make a change within it, because the world is hungry for spiritual nourishment, starving, in fact. And as the systems in place that fly high the banner of religion, high over the heads of the human race, well, I'm going to say, without apology, they're mostly bereft of God. Every single night of the 15 years that I worked as a pulpit rabbi, I crawled into bed and cried myself to sleep. Every night. I loved the work, human to human. Being a compassionate guide during the best and the worst moments of people's lives was an honor, a gift, and thank God I'm good at it. I'm good at it because it's real for me. It's not a job, it's real. But the work of being a rabbi, or I should say a priest or a preacher or a minister, you name it, in a pulpit job, well, I will calculate for me, was barely 10% of my existence. The other 90% was, in a word, hold on for it, torture. I never aspired to be a female rabbi. I just wanted to be a rabbi. But I will tell you that sexism is alive and well in these patriarchal circles. And a rabbi who looks like me is still ducking from all of the shots fired for the audacity of being a strong, bold, competent leader. I never imagined that I would have to deal with this. That wasn't the story I sought. And so petty egoic battles, disrespect, emotional abuse, and more stress than any gentle soul can bear were the order of my days every day. I hated my job. Imagine hating the job that I was convinced God had called me to. I was in a perpetual state of existential crises. It was constant. I no longer understood the calling, the destiny. I had my midlife crisis at age 65. And then one day, I couldn't bear the sorrow anymore. My soul was dying. I'd call out to God, "Please, why have you called me so passionately to such an existence? I'm dying in this cold, hard building made of human ego and a hunger for some strange power." And God finally said, "Jules, it's time. Fly, girl. It's time to do what I actually called you to do. But know this, you needed to know these truths so that you would know which way to step in building this new home for me. Do not be afraid. It is time to fly. Go and build that dream. It's time." And I walked away from pulpit life forever. I'm now one of 10 rabbis in this country who have broken out of the board-centered construct of most religious institutions, which sadly pit the spiritual vision against the business vision. Are you okay there, dear? You okay? You're kind of getting sick? Well, why don't you leave the room? Could you do that? I am now one of 10 rabbis in this country who have broken out of the board-centered construct of most religious institutions, which sadly pit the spiritual vision against the business vision. And in my hard-fought opinion, God does not win the battle. These 10 rabbis, of which I'm one of, are each following our own passions and creativity, our own call from God, but we are all doing something new, something different, and I do believe a foretaste of what the future of religion will be. I am proud to be nationally acclaimed for this experiment, having recently been covered by a national publication, The Forward. This is a new direction. It's something worth talking about. The truth is, religious institutions are failing. We know it. And these new spiritual environments are not. They are speaking to the new soul of humanity, as you well know here. It's like preaching to the choir. Oh. My community is run by the spiritual leader. We have no expensive building to maintain, so our money goes to humans and programming and the building of true human connections, not the skin-deep type, but the heart-deep type. There is no status to be had, so no one in search of carving out a place for their ego to reside can even find a place to take up residence. My community is about love and kindness, respect, and the search for truth, the love of God, however that is comprehended, and bottom line, goodness rules. Full stop. Full dead stop. I guard the front door very carefully. It's simple, and yet it's also very deep. And it is completely enwrapped in one of the world's most brilliant spiritual paths, that of my sacred heritage of Judaism. So my life has been called to a crossroad, right here where religion and spirituality converge. I thought I was being called to a life in the pulpit, but turns out Rabbi Koslow dislikes organized religion as much as the next guy, maybe even more. But the essence of religion, the hunger for God, the passion for human connection, the love of humanity, despite its many deprivations, is the foundation of my new community. Religions only make sense in light of the spiritual experience because, sadly, religion without the spiritual is simply put an endeavor of ego, power, control, and status. And I am no longer afraid to say that out loud and articulate it very clearly. I do not believe that God resides in any of those places. So I'm navigating the building of a new spiritual community without a blueprint or any clear directions. My heart chakra is on high alert. And the dignified expectations of behavior by all of us is a non-negotiable. Love, patience, acceptance, and deep connection paves the way. I challenge every single construct of organized religion, and I search out the most meaningful ways, less cliches to be heard, more spiritual nourishment to be had, less do this and don't do that, less country club and more soul, less what have you done for me lately, Rabbi, and what can we do together to uplift our community, our city, our country, our world as one committed and united humanity. We engage art, music, nature, beauty, friendship, prayer, all of these places where the heart can feel God's presence more easily. No one has to be anything for anyone except good, kind, and respectful. So I now crawl into bed each night overcome by the joy that is my life. I am finally living authentically and doing the work that I was called to do. I've been able to come home to the true identity that my Creator called me to be, and that has made all the difference in the world. I am soaring into my destiny on angel's wings, and I want to thank you, most of you, for having me, for listening to me, and for allowing me to share this sacred story with you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, wow. And so we're just going to close with that powerful message with gratitude, with recognition that this truly is unfolding as this divine appointment for all of us being called. All of us are being called together here now to recognize that we are all one, no matter what religion, no matter what. We are all one with and of this one life divine, this one living spirit. We are all one with and of each other on the unseen side of life. And we all gather together in gratitude for knowing that we share this journey of oneness together. We share this journey of oneness, whether it be a rabbi or minister or whatever it may be. These leaders are our spiritual leaders, and we are spiritual beings who are being called to listen and to hear what we need to hear and do what we need to do. And we are ever so grateful for Rabbi Julie. We're ever so grateful for gathering together here in the center, for all of the center's leaders. And so we leave today knowing that we answer this call, however it may be, knowing that we are always divinely guided and guarded and directed and supported by this divine life, this one life that lives within us. And so with gratitude, I simply release my word into love and law, and together we say, so it is.
Can you hear that song? The blessing? Oh, I'm sorry, I was waiting for the kids to come. Okay. Well, I'm just going to sing a blessing, the ancient priestly blessing for each and every one of you in this room. Yivrechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. Ve'yasem lecha shalom. May the light of the Holy One shine on you. May God bless you, and may God keep you. May the light of the Holy One shine on you. Okay. Oh.